Today I'd like to speak about a vision that I had earlier this year, 2020. And in this vision of mine, it began like a movie. No other dream that I had prior to this dream or vision that I had began like this. Basically, it started off like a movie, and I found myself looking into the sky, or I was in the sky, whichever the case may be, and then I began to start going downwards like a camera. And first sky was blue, then it was with clouds, and I saw a word, and it said the last Israelite. And then below it, I began to start seeing these words written in white, but the words are real small. Think of Star Wars. That's basically how it was panning downwards. And as it's panning downwards, I heard these conversation happening over like a radio at first, and then because there was a little static, and then it sounded like a television, and then it sounded like a plane, and a plane touched down in a country within in Africa. I'm gonna say Nigeria. It was the west part of Africa, and the people were crowding around this little girl. She was in a hut, and she was very dirty, and they were looking around her and say, "Oh, she's so beautiful. She's so beautiful." I'm like, okay, and she was very skeptical of going next to them as they were going closer to her, and they were saying, "Oh, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. You're safe now. You're the last Israelite, and we're gonna take us with us and doll you up." And she didn't understand what was going on. She was very, continuously skeptical of these people. And then they handed her food, and she gladly took it because it looked like she was in a way like starving. And when they took her outside the hut, and they were carrying her, everywhere was desolate. It was like it was war torn, but it was just not like in the desert or anything. It was like in a city, but the city was destroyed, like a battle had been had. And the people were saying, "Oh, you're the last one." So they took her into this castle. It looked like a Middle Eastern castle, like a Saudi Arabia, one of those prince castles, and they placed her on top of this place like a Persian rugs. So I don't understand what was going on, but they looked like they were sitting on a throne with a Persian rug, and she stood up on this stool, and a throne was behind her, but she never stood in the throne. And they were dolling her up. They were taking off her clothes, changing her clothes, putting a golden tiara around her head, and along with various other gems and so on and so forth around her. And they were telling her, "She's royalty, she's royalty." And a smile slowly began to come on her face. I said, "We're going to take you to America. Don't worry, you're going to love it." So she went on a private jet, and it flew, and the camera was on the outside, and it looked at her face, and she had a big smile on her face. The plane landed, a red carpet was rolled out, or more specifically, a purple carpet, and she walked down the stairs, and there's all these cameras. I'm like, wow, this is this is amazing, because it's like watching a movie, because I never had a dream like this before. And she went into a black limo, and she was driving, and then the limo stopped, and then I looked, and it said Trump Tower, like Trump Tower. This is interesting. And then the carpet rolled out again, and it was all these people in black. They were cloaks. They weren't like suits. They were like cloaks. Some cloaks from neck down, and on the way their head is supposed to be. They had masks on, like the Egyptians, like they have like dogs and like owls and all these other stuff. And they were walking her down this aisle, and I saw these pillars, these Roman pillars, but the pillars were white and gold. And they did, and the people were like, "Oh my goodness, there she is, there she is." And I could not tell what race these people were, or ethnicity, or gender, or anything. I guess I could tell the gender by some of the females, because you can see so like their bust, also the cloak, and they had like feathers, unlike the men that had no feathers. And there were these two very muscular men. They're very big, like we see in those Egyptian movies where they have the guards, and they had the dog mask over their heads, and they had a gold and black staffs or spears but it was so long, they were so big and so tall. I could hardly see the tip of the spear. So I perceived them to be staffs. And they carried this young lady, and there were two elevators. There's one to the left and there's one to the right. And the people were cheering, put her in the right elevator, put her in the right elevator. That's the best elevator. Take her to her maker. Right, to her maker. And then they took her to the right and they opened it. And I saw a person walk in a suit, and he sounded just like Trump, but they never showed his face. Like from the every human they showed, it was the neck down, and the only time they showed above the neck was where they showed the mask. And he extended his left hand, and he said, "Welcome, let her in, and turn her to our maker." And then they put her in this onto when they opened the door, there was a right and a left side, and on each side there was a weight, like where you can weigh stuff, like and they put her in it. And then on the left side they put a monkey into the left side, and then they poured oil at her feet. All this entire time she's smiling because she's thinking that this is a ritual, like a ritual, like for like I don't know, like some like a royal ritual. And then they closed the gate. They when they op- when they under they put their hand up and they dragged the gate from the top down like a bar. And then she became like, I looked the camera looked at her face and she became worried. The monkey, he was flashing around in the oil, and then all of a sudden the fire started to rise behind them, and all of a sudden the people started laughing. Then the people slowly started to take off their. Some of them started to take off their helmet, and some people say, "No, don't take off a helmet." And they're like, "Why won't we take off a helmet? Nothing's gonna happen." And they were Caucasians, and some were like, I think they were like East Indians. I'm not quite sure, but they were mostly Caucasian males. And then they started to scream, "Let's see which one was going to burn fastest or cook the fastest," or something along those lines. So I'm watching this, and I'm trying to put two and two together. Then recently I was reading the Bible and I came across a verse. It was in Ezekiel 9 and 6, and it said, "Slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children and women, but come not near any man upon whom is the mark, and begin at my sanctuary." Then they began at the ancient men which were before the house. And I think that's what was happening in this vision. I may be wrong, but I think this was happening. I think this was a ritual that's happening. And as time go on, and I learn about the secret societies and all that, about the owls and the various gods, I put one and two together, and that's what I came to the conclusion. They were sacrificing this young lady because I perceived that at this point there were not many people other than Caucasians on the earth. And the people that I saw, they look like what we call upper elite, upper echelons. Very few of other races, but more Caucasians than anything. Well, maybe you will interpret this video different from my. Well, that will be it today, and thanks for listening. Goodbye.